We're back. If everyone can make sure their phones are muted. Please make sure your phones are muted. We'll give it a second or two to make sure everyone is joined us. Okay, Mr. Clark, if you could sound the roll just to make sure everyone's here.
Council President Moore.
Present.
Council members Michael Julian Bond.
Aye.
Matt Westmoreland.
Here.
Andre Dickens.
Here.
Carla Smith. Amir Faroki.
Here.
Antonio Brown. Lita Winslow.
Hold on. Present.
Natalie Mosby Archibald. Jennifer N. Ide.
Here.
Howard Shook. J.P. Mastakite.
Here.
Dustin Hillis.
Here.
Andrea L. Boone. Marcy Collier Overstreet.
Present.
Joyce M. Shepard.
Present.
Quorum present.
Okay, I'll just, Ms. Archibald is here. I see her.
Noted.
And Ms. Smith, have you arrived? Mr. Shook, have you arrived? Ms. Boone, have you arrived? Okay. Let's continue on, Mr. Chair. We are still in Community Development and Human Services Committee.
Yes, ma'am. That completes my report.
Thank you. We will now move to our standing committee that we skipped, which did have one item, which was Transportation Committee. Mr. Andre Dickens, the Honorable Andre Dickens, Chair, you did have an item.
Yes, my apologies, Council President and members of Council. I remember that, and Council staff did tell me this, so it just slipped when my computer had went out. But we have an item that was favorable on condition, and this is on page 28, and it's item number 2, and that ordinance number is 21-0-0116, and it was favorable on condition for the Office of Contract Compliance to provide documentation, and we had 6 yeas and 1 abstention so that we can get the documentation, and the requested information was provided, and so I make a motion now to approve.
Motion is to adopt. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt that came out of committee? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Did that come out of committee?
I'm sorry, Madam President?
The motion to adopt came out of committee?
Yes, it did.
Okay. I hear none, see no discussion. Let's open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Westmoreland, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. Smith?
In favor.
Ms. Winslow?
In favor.
All votes are cast. Winslow Smith, Westmoreland Bond voting in the affirmative.
The vote is now closed. Populating vote.
All votes are cast, 14 yeas, 0 nays. It is adopted.
And that concludes the report of the Transportation Committee.
All right, now we will go to Finance Executive Committee. The Honorable Jennifer Hyde, Chair.
Thank you, Council President. My first item is 21-00048, an ordinance by Councilmembers Justin Hillis, Carla Smith, Matt Westmoreland, Joyce Shepard, Michael Julian Bond, and Cleta Winslow, as substituted and amended by Community Development Human Services Committee, authorizing the City of Atlanta, the Atlanta Development Authority doing business as Invest Atlanta, and the Atlanta Urban Redevelopment Agency, AURA, the presentation of the Atlanta Beltline Trail Corridor Completion Project, the project within the boundaries of the Atlanta Beltline Special Services District, the SSD, providing for definitions, authorizing and approving the financing of the project by the authority and/or AURA and any necessary or appropriate public projects ancillary thereto as part of the implementation of the city's redevelopment plan and urban redevelopment plan as amended. Each is previously approved by the city, authorizing the preparation, use, and distribution, as the case may be, of an intergovernmental agreement between and among the city, the authority, and/or AURA, as reviewed and approved by Atlanta Beltline Inc., ABI, among other documents and agreements in connection therewith, providing for parameters for said financing and for other related matters, providing for severability, and providing for other purposes. This was favorable on substitute from committee, so the motion was to adopt with 1 nay and 2 abstentions.
Okay, the motion is passed. Any discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, let's open the vote.
Madam President.
Hold on, Mr. Bond, go ahead.
I just want clarity on the legislation. Is this the legislation that was the dual referral from CDHS, or is this one of the 2 papers that were referred to finance alone?
This one came from CD.
Okay, thank you.
Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Winslow?
In favor.
All votes are cast. Bond and Winslow in the affirmative.
The vote is now closed. Populating vote.
The 11 yeas, 2 nays. It is adopted as amended. Next item.
The next item is 21-00052, an ordinance by council members Justin Hillis, Carla Smith, Matt Westmoreland, George Shepard, Michael Julian Bond, and Cleta Winslow, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee to amend Section 146-26H of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta so as to provide for an ad valorem tax levied on property located within the Atlanta Beltline Special Services District and for other purposes. This one was favorable out of committee with 1 nay and 2 abstentions, and the motion was to adopt.
Motion is to adopt. Any discussion? Let's open the vote.
The vote is now open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Nay.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In
Winslow?
favor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bond, Ms. Winslow in favor. All votes are cast.
Madam President, I voted nay, not
I'm
yay.
so sorry. I'm sorry. It's getting late. Mr. Bond is a nay. Ms. Winslow is a yay. All votes are cast.
Duly noted. The vote is now closed. Populating votes. Populating votes.
I think all votes are cast. 10 yeas, 3 nays, 1 abstention. And just because we had restarted our stream, Mr. I, would you please explain your abstention? And then Ms. Archibald.
Yes, I abstained on this piece and the one before it, and will on 210083 as well, because I own commercial property within the SSD and was advised by the ethics officer to abstain on these pieces of legislation.
Thank you. Ms. Archibald.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to explain my vote. I did speak very extensively during CDHS, and so I'll keep it brief, but I wanted to say for the record that I do support completing the Beltline loop. I think it's important. And I do appreciate the looking at creative or different ways to meet the funding requirements to get that done. But I do not support the SSD at this time because our small businesses are hurting. Our rental multifamily apartment owners will more than likely pass down the cost of this new assessment onto their tenants, and the commercial property owners will definitely pass on that additional cost. It struck me as a bit ironic that as our national leaders are passing have passed $1.9 trillion in support that included helping small businesses, that we are at this time assessing an additional $2 million on our small businesses. I've talked a lot about the process. I think that we can do better, and I have been assured by the Beltline and the Beltline Partnership leaders that they will do as much as they can going forward to mitigate the harm with the funds that will be available in the buckets that have been identified to help small businesses, to help with affordable housing and the like. But I just wanted to be clear that this vote of no is not a vote of no against the Beltline being completed. It was about timing and process. Thank you very much.
Anyone, Mr. Hillis? And please mute your phone. Mute your phone. Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to thank everyone for their support of this. The reason I stepped out is to be a sponsor of this paper is because the 15 years that the Northwest corridor has paid into the Beltline, yet seen no improvements. That is certainly going to be changing soon with the implementation of the Marietta Boulevard portion, and we are finally moving sub-area 8 into scoping. That RFQ was released last week, so that is changing. But I sponsored this because I want to see those improvements to the Beltline come to the Northwest Corridor in District 9. And just so everyone understands kind of the metrics behind these numbers, half of the parcels in this SSD are going to pay less than $250 a year in additional taxes. That's less than $21 a month. And actually, the top 3% of parcels, when you look at value, they're going to generate 2/3 of the SSD revenue. I do understand the issue with small businesses. That's why we look to successfully pass an amendment that increased that small business fund from $7 million to $12 million. And again, that passed in committee. I'm very proud of that. And the city has received millions in funds for COVID relief, and will be receiving, I believe, about 178 million more, which millions of that I imagine this body will want to send to small businesses. So just wanted to again thank my colleagues for their support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else. Does anyone else want to speak? All right. Well, let me unmute everyone. I had to mute everyone because someone has a lot of background noise. So if you want to speak, please speak up. I think we can unmute you, or either hit the button on your speaker or text me if you're not on the system. Okay, so let's move on, Madam Chair. Unmute Ms. Hyde, please.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
The next item is 21-00083, which is an ordinance by council members J.P. Matsakite, Howard Shook, Andre Dickens, Matt Westmoreland, Amir Faroki, and Dustin Hillis, as substituted and amended by Finance Executive Committee to amend Charter, Subpart A, Article 6, Chapter 3, Section 6-315B, Subsection 3 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for the purpose of increasing the 3.5% appropriation of the City of Atlanta general budget for the Public Infrastructure Maintenance and Improvement account to 5% in order to ensure adequate annual dedicated capital account funding for routine maintenance, repair, and replacement of public infrastructure and for other purposes. And this item was favorable out of committee on substitute and as amended, and this is a charter amendment, and this is its second reading and first adoption. That the motion was to adopt.
Did you mean?
And I do not need. Did I skip the last? Sorry, I skipped. No.
00.
No. I didn't read that because it wasn't on my report, but let me read it. Sorry about that. I thought that there was another Beltline related one. Okay. 21-00082, an ordinance by council members J.P. Matsakite, Howard Shook, Andre Dickens, Matt Westmoreland, Amir Faroki, and Dustin Hillis, as substituted and amended by Finance Executive Committee to amend Chapter Subpart A, Article 6, Chapter 3, Section 6-315B, Subsection 3 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for the purpose of increasing the 3.5% appropriation of the City of Atlanta general budget for the public. Am I reading the right one? Infrastructure. For the public infrastructure. Okay. Maintenance and improvement account to 5% in order to ensure adequate annual dedicated capital account funding for routine maintenance, repair, and replacement of public infrastructure and for other purposes. It was just, I'm sorry, I read the number wrong. It was on my report. So this one, yes, the recommendation out of committee was to adopt, but this is a charter amendment, so this would be its first adoption.
And just for the record, read the number.
21-00082, not 0083.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's open the vote on 21-00082.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Shook, how do you vote? Or Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
All votes are cast. Bond, Winslow, or aye.
The vote is now closed. Populating votes.
14 yeas, 0 nays. It's adopted. Next item.
The next item is 21R3156, a resolution by Councilmember Jennifer Ann Ide as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, and it's a resolution requesting that the mayor take into consideration and fund priorities that the Atlanta City Council recommends being included in the fiscal year 2022 budget and for other purposes. And there was a substitute at committee, and my apologies, I need to see if there's a substitute that we need to bring forward. I believe that there's a substitute to bring forward tonight as well with additions. Yep. So I need to make a motion to bring forward the substitute. Same caption, but it contains additional.
Is there a second? Please unmute. Second. Okay, who is that?
Winslow, second.
Okay, Ms. Winslow. Ms. Winslow, second. The motion is to bring forth the substitute. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's open the vote on bringing forth the substitute.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Ms. Winslow? Not Ms. Winslow, Mr. Bond.
Aye.
Mr. Dickens? Mr. Shook? Mr. Shook? All votes are cast with Mr. Bond voting yes.
The vote is now closed. Populating votes.
$13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to bring forth the substitute is adopted. Proceed.
And just to be clear, so everybody knows what we have, there had been a substitute at Finance Exec, and then we received additional comments from requests from Councilmembers Hillis and Brown. And so, Councilmember Hillis and Brown, your requests were included in the substitute that we just brought forward. So it came forward from committee with no recommendation. I will make a recommendation to adopt, but I don't know if there are people who have additional items to add that they did not get to us before the meeting.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Please make sure members are muted.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bond. Any discussion? Unmute all members to make sure there's no discussion. Don't hear anyone. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Ms. Winslow?
In favor.
Mr. Shook? Ms. Overstreet? Okay, Mr. Smith is aye. Ms. Overstreet?
Affirmative.
Okay, all votes are cast. Overstreet and Winslow in the affirmative.
The vote is now closed. Populating votes.
$14 yeas, 0 nays. It's adopted. Next item.
That concludes my legislative report.
Wonderful. We are now at City Utilities Committee. The Honorable Nadlin Archibong, Chair.
All right, thank you. We have one item, number one on page 39, 20-R-4571. An amended
Madam President.
Yes?
There was an additional item on the FEC report that I pulled from the consent agenda.
Okay.
I am sorry, you are correct. Let me find that.
So we'll go back to FEC and we'll, Ms. Archibald.
It was item 1213.
Okay, I have it before me. I apologize for that. It is 21R3255, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer pursuant to the provisions of OCGA 485-380 to issue a refund in the amount of $240,244.64 to Technology Square LLC for reimbursement of certain property taxes paid in tax year 2017. All funds to be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, account numbers listed herein and for other purposes, and the motion was to adopt.
Mr. Hillis?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'll be abstaining from this matter as my wife, Lindsay Hillis, was counsel for the plaintiff in this matter.
Thank you. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote? In favor. Mr. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Overstreet?
Affirmative.
All votes are cast. Overstreet, Winslow, Bond, yes.
Vote is now closed. Populating vote.
I believe that's it. That's 13 yeas, 1 abstention. It is adopted. Now we go to the Honorable Nadlin Archibald with City Utilities Committee.
All right, thank you. 20R-4571, an amended resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute agreement for RFP-F, S as in Sam, 12000311, Architectural, Engineering, Design, and Construction Management Services, RFP-S 12000311A, with Arcadis BPA Joint Venture, a joint venture of Arcadis US, Inc., and Brindley Peters and Associates, Inc., RFP-S 120031, with Atlanta Water Partners Joint Venture, a joint venture of Jacobs Project Management Company and Engineering Design Technologies, Inc., RFPS-S 12000311 with CDM Smith Benchmark Joint Venture, a joint venture of CDM Smith, Inc. and Benchmark Management, LLC, RFP-S 12000311 with SWR Joint Venture, a joint venture of Fries and Nichols, Inc., Wade Trim, Inc., and Williams Russell and Johnson, Inc., RFPS 12000311 with H2R Joint Venture, a joint venture of Hazen and Sawyer, PC, and R2T, Inc., and RFPS 12000311 with HDR Rotofox Joint Venture, a joint venture with HDR Engineering, Inc., and Rotofox Construction Control Services Corporation, to provide architectural, engineering, design, and construction management services to the Department of Watershed Management on a task order basis for an initial term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options, and to add funding to a joint task order fund in an amount not to exceed $5 million and 0 cents. Contracted work shall be charged to and paid from the project and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. This comes to the committee favorable. So the motion is to adopt.
The motion is to adopt. I have Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Madam President and Chairwoman Archibong. Although this was favorable from the City Utilities Committee, which I sit on, there were 4 abstentions given some of the talk that has been around this A&E procurement, which originally went out for procurement actually in March of 2020. The final selection sometime in September of last year, and this I think it speaks to the issues around this, as to how long this has been held in committee. Of course, all of this happened under the previous watershed commissioner and the previous Department of Procurement head. There were a number of issues around the procurement. There were some ethical issues that were brought up that circled around one of the proponents, Arcadis, and then some other issues with vendor performance with Arcadis and with Jacobs, which are 2 of the 5 that were chosen in this procurement. And just wanted to start with Arcadis. I think we all know that name. They're a large vendor for the city, and certainly we know their names from failure that have happened in the city and drawn out projects. They were responsible for engineering and design of the MLK Drive improvement project. They were the same for DeKalb Avenue. And we all are very well aware of the issues and lawsuits around the Department of Public Works solid waste fee studies, and Arcadis was behind that study. If you look at their vendor performance report, they're not very glowing. They mentioned some complaints include, and I'll just go through a couple of them: overall project management poor, not present, late at meetings, invoicing and pay reports behind, EBO requirements are not met, not responsive. Final deliverable was difficult to obtain. Invoices always came in too high, to not receive deliverables. And then one of the specific issues that the IPRO points out, and just knowing what has happened, all of the IPRO report cited as proponent number 1, that would be Arcadis, because it cites where Arcadis' vice president of business development, Jerry Jones, was indicted in May of 2019 by the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama for a false invoicing scheme within and involving the Birmingham Water Works Board. And I believe sentencing was scheduled for October of last year. I don't know if that has occurred yet, but Mr. Jones did indeed plead guilty. And again, they did not bother to disclose any of this on their bid. There are a number of other issues, but just moving into Jacob, who is another one of the proponents. They have almost an equal number of issues in there. Some of their vendor complaints, substandard engineering, former PM lack of experience in stormwater engineering, which of course is important for a Department of Watershed Management vendor. Former project manager not following through on bi-weekly review comments. Low coordination with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which we of course run many projects with, including the Park Street bank restoration. That's either ongoing or upcoming. Consultants slow to respond to inquiries, and invoicing often falls behind and are not submitted at the end of the month for billing period. So with all that said, I'm going to offer an amendment, and would welcome my colleague's feedback. You've all been emailed the amendment that would basically remove Arcadis and Jacob from from the list of the 5, as there were, I believe, 8 that were qualified, but I guess under A&Es, at least in the watershed, we only select the top 5. It's my understanding these other 2 vendors did score qualifying scores, and I did check with the city auditor and IPRO, and they were okay with this amendment. Nothing came back on these 2 vendors, as far as I was told. But anyways, the amendment, I would make a motion to amend, and the amendment basically strikes those 2 vendors and inserts the other two higher scoring vendors that were not in those top 5. So basically take out the 2 with the issues and inserts the other 2. And how do I need to read this amendment, Madam President? I just need to say who struck out and who has.
Read it as you want it stated.
Okay. So the amendment that you have been emailed, it shows you where we're striking language and where we're adding bolded language. It would strike Arcadis and BPA joint venture, Arcadis Friendly Peters and Associates, and replace it with BWL joint venture, the joint venture of Barge Design Solutions Incorporated, WC Global Incorporated, and Landmark Consulting LLC. And then it will strike Atlanta Water Partners joint venture, Jacobs Engineering Design Technologies, and replace it with Infrastructure Solutions Group joint venture, the joint venture of Atkins North America Incorporated and Corporate Environmental Risk Management. That is replaced. That same. That is how the caption, and then those blocks are also made in paragraph 4, a whereas clause. Paragraph 5, which is a whereas clause. Paragraph 11, which is the first resolve clause. So I would make a motion to make that amendment.
Is there a second? Okay. You're also what before I get to second?
Second.
I'll wait for the second.
Okay, Mr. Dickens, second. Motion by Hillis. Go ahead, Mr. Hillis.
And so when this first got brought up to me, the reason I'm making this amendment instead of just filing it is because CWM, all of their projects pretty much fall and are these A&E contracts are needed for their projects just like they're needed in other departments such as DPW and ACL DOT. Again, as I mentioned, this RFP was issued in March of 2020, and still here we are. So I don't want this to be filed if we can avoid it and wait another year and Watershed be stuck without an A&E contract. So with that, I would just ask that we keep that in mind and ask my colleagues to support this amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hillis. We now go to Ms. Archibald.
Thank you very much. I find this amendment highly irregular, so I would like to hear from the law department on having a council member select another team. Is that within our purview to do that?
If Ms. Frazier or Ms. Dixon could respond.
Yes, Madam President, this is Alicia Frazier, Managing Deputy City Attorney. I would like to ask that Chandra Houston and Roger Bhandari speak to the issue, please. They're on the line. May they be unmuted?
Yes, please make sure we unmute them. Mr. Bhandari?
Good evening. This is Chandra Houston. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I am the division chief of the procurement contract team in the law department. And thank you, Councilmember Archibald. This is indeed highly irregular. As you guys are aware, there are a number of charter provisions as well as ordinances that establish the responsibility to make determinations around procurement solicitations with our chief procurement officer. He is tasked with making the decisions and the determinations around the most responsive and the most responsible bidders. And so in this case, since those decisions have indeed been made, it is a risk for this body to go against the established ordinances that are in place and venture to strike the offerers or the respondents as have been designated by the Department of Procurement. And in fact, in doing so, you do put yourselves at risk such that your legislative immunity may not be available to you for having gone outside of the legislation, the established processes and procedures in the code.
Okay, Ms. Ide?
I had really just wanted to hear the law department's opinion also, so I think that answered my question.
Okay, Mr. Hillis.
I'll preserve my comments after the vote.
Madam President, can I ask a question? Hello?
Yes, Ms. Winslow, go ahead.
So, are we voting on amending this paper to add in what?
We're on the Hillis Amendment.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Councilmember Archibald. That's never been done before by council. And I'm not saying that what my colleague is, Mr. Hillis is saying isn't true. I don't know if it is or if it isn't, but arcaded. But if we start, taking liberties beyond which we should, that puts us in a precarious situation because we haven't reviewed any paperwork. We haven't looked at any documentation or anything like that. So I don't know if we need to send this back to committee. I'm just unclear. This is the first time I've ever heard of us trying to substitute contractors, that us as city council people doing it. And I'm just a little concerned about that.
Okay. Well, let's do this. We have Ms. Overstreet, Mr. Bond, and before Mr. Hillis, I think Attorney Bendari wants to speak. So let's go with Ms. Overstreet and Mr. Bond.
President Moore, this is Roger Vandar, Law Department. Ms. Houston summarized everything, so I don't have anything further to say at this time.
All right, thank you. Ms. Overstreet. Okay, she doesn't have anything,
Yeah, so,
Mr. Bond. Oh, go ahead, Ms.
I'm just
Overstreet.
left. Can you hear me, Council President?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm just left with some questions because I don't know if we're at a place where we can vote. So I really and truly just need some answers. It does. I agree with law and everyone. I'm just not sure because we've never been presented with this before. Does this require maybe an executive session? Is there something else that we need to know? This sounds to me like
committee work. Like it's something that could have been done there, maybe. We've not been privy to any of this for the last 12 months. It's March again. So I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, Attorney Frazier wants to respond to you, Ms. Overstreet.
Okay. And here's one more question I'd like him to respond to also. When we find that a contractor may or may not have, maybe causing the city harm or damage, and I'm not saying that this contractor has, because again, we don't know. We've not seen any of it. But what is our purview, and what is our right as a city? What are our options when something is found to go that way? Just wondering. I mean, this is all way from left field for us because full council has not been privy to the details. I need just answers more than anything else so that I can make an informed decision.
Attorney Frazier?
Yes, thank you, Madam President and Councilmember Overstreet. Given the questions that are you've asked in the situation at hand, I would strongly encourage us to enter into executive session because these items will likely be topic of discussion, of litigation, dependent on the action of the council. And I think that my recommendation is that we go into executive session.
So, colleagues, can I just recommend one thing before we decide to do that? If it's possible for us to finish public safety and zoning and then come back to this and go into executive session just so that we can not just jump in and jump back out, is that okay with everyone? Does anyone have an objection? Yes, I'm going to call on you, Mr. Bond. Okay, so Mr. Bond, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak before we consider going into executive session. I'm very sympathetic to the position that Councilmember Hillis articulated with these particular vendors, and I'm also sensitive to the explanation from the law department, but I believe that I possibly have a solution to the issue. These annual contracts didn't always come combined within the same resolution. We as a body have the right to ask for division on these contracts. And so perhaps if Mr. Hillis were willing to, if there are two companies where the questions are going to be about, or if there's apprehension about these two companies and their annual contracts, perhaps we should just eliminate those two companies from this resolution and either later in executive session or over the period of the break have the discussion about the issues around those two and then allow the other three that are a part of this resolution to go forward, since there is no question about their work and performance, and then they will be able to assist the department with whatever annual work that is required of them during that same period. So we can just simply decide it.
Let's ask the law department if that's a problem to just, instead of replacing, so that an option Mr. Hillis could use would be just removing those and then dealing with those separately.
This is Chandra Houston. Can you all still hear me?
Yes, we can.
I don't believe that separating them in this fashion is going to eliminate the issue. I think it still has the appearance that we are striking those two from the resolution. I believe that we need to, that you guys should either vote this up or down, and, for now, and then perhaps the Department of Procurement can come back with something restructured. And I don't recommend that merely removing in this fashion at this time is going to alleviate the risk to you guys in terms of your legislative immunity.
Mr. Bond?
Well, I appreciate that explanation, but I don't agree with it. Years ago, and some of us who were on the council back in 2010, when Mayor Reed was putting forward annual airport contracts that were bundled in the same fashion, I simply called for division, and we voted on those contracts one at a time. There's nothing to prevent a member of this body or the administration asking a member of this body to introduce a resolution at the end of this meeting to approve those two annual contractors that Mr. Hillis seeks to remove, and puts the legislation right back in the hopper for consideration and before the committee. The hour is late. We have the ability, it's in our council rules that we can call for divisions. I would just say that he just eliminate those two, and someone who's got a good relationship with the administration introduce a resolution at the end of this meeting, and there's still legislation pending based upon the recommendations of the procurement department. We just move on.
Okay. So let me do this. I see we have other people. I see that the head of the procurement department wants to speak. There is a potential that we may want to go in executive session. I'm going to call on a couple people who haven't spoken. Mr. Hillis, if you're finished, Mr. Bond. And then if we're going to do all of that, I would prefer us to get the other committees done before we start breaking off into executive session so the public can follow us. Are you done, Mr. Bond?
I yield.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to go now to Ms. Shepherd, Mr. Dickens, and then Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I too am listening to the law department, and I do have questions in terms of how we're doing this process that's being recommended by Mr. Hillis. However, I do think, so I'm not sure if this is, I don't believe that we are going down the right road in terms of doing what he's proposing. But there is questions about what he's saying, the validity of it, and we need to check that out or see based on what he's saying if there's any legal ramification around that, or is that something we need to look at. So the question for me would be whether we should hold this or send it back to committee for more discussion and to let the procurement department or the law department look into this. And I'm interested in hearing from our procurement director also, just to see what he has to say in terms of this process. So I don't believe how Mr. Hillis is amending it is correct. However, it does raise a flag for me as to something we should be looking into. And so I'm not sure if when you say vote it up or vote it down, I can't vote it up if there's a flag to me that says, wait a minute, we need to be looking into something. I just want to make sure that as we're doing this, we're looking at something that's not going to be an issue for us in terms of what we're spending our money on later or some legal challenges. And so that's my thoughts and concerns. But I would like to hear from the procurement department also.
Yeah, we will have to go into the committee of the whole for that. And you're right, you can vote it up, you can vote it down, you can table it, or you can send it back to committee. So there are more than two options. So are you done, Ms. Shepherd?
Yes, I am. I would recommend we send it back to committee.
Okay, someone needs to make that motion. So we're now at Mr. Dickens.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Bond. There's the work still needs to get done by the department. It's been going on for a year now. So if we can approve some and wait on others, and they can go through another, legislative process, then that may be a possibility too. So I mean, I'm the seconder on this, but if we need to, kind of split this up, as Councilmember Bond said, we can move forward with those that were approved, pull off the two that are in question, and deal with the other two or whatever, back in council committee. But if we need to go into executive session, I understand that too. Thank you.
Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Madam President. And, I do agree with Mr. Bond and Mr. Dickens that, that is an option. It's very disheartening to hear from the law department that our only option is to approve or deny, and there's no in between. I find that quite ridiculous. And most of the stuff that I mentioned is in black and white on the AFRO report. Those reports were instituted a number of years ago before I was on council to inform us so we can make these decisions. And they're there for us to read and to try to understand and ask questions about, and to inform the public, to call out and hopefully prevent, potential scandal, whether it be vendors or within the procurement department or within other departments. So a lot of the information, again, that I mentioned is in the AFRO report. I agree. This is committee work, but it was called up for a vote in committee. A majority of the committee was uncomfortable with voting for it. We abstained, but 2 people voted for it, and that moved it to full council. So here we are. So I've offered one option as an amendment. We've heard a couple more options. So I'll yield the floor, and if the body feels we need to have an executive session or hear from procurement, then I'm up for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So, is there any other member that would like to make a recommendation? Anyone else?
A motion to send it back to committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Boone.
It is a second by Boone, a motion by Shepard to refer back to committee. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Hillis?
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I know this is an option, when we have questions and, committee work has not been done in committee. But again, this has been sitting in committee for a number of months. The procurement itself took, I believe, about 6.5 months. So when, we're getting constituent phone calls from our districts and wondering why the watershed projects aren't being completed, we'll have to tell them, well, because we don't have any A&E contracts, because there are issues, and it's still sitting in committee. So that's the only reason as Councilmember Dickens said, I want to move something forward so our Department of Watershed has an A&E contractor to stand on and do all these stormwater projects and new water lines and sewer lines and things of that. So I'll keep that in mind as you go through this. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Archibald. Oh, wait a minute, who is that?
Oh, that was Councilmember Shepard. I was going to ask a question.
Okay, next. And if everyone else can mute their phones, please, we're getting feedback. Okay, Ms. Shepard?
Ms. Shepard or Ms. Archibald? You want to let me speak now, Ms. Moore?
Yeah, Ms. Archibald, relinquish the floor.
No, I got bumped off. I got bumped off the computer. I'm ready to talk.
Okay, let her go and then I'll follow her.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Archibald.
Thank you. I wanted to speak to the substitute motion to refer it to committee. I don't want to leave my colleagues with the impression that the committee did not do any due diligence. we received a very extensive iPro report that detailed the findings and concerns, and unfortunately I don't have the copy here before me, but as I understand it, the ethics officer reviewed all of the materials and was comfortable that there were no ethical violations, and each of the findings that were identified during the audit, they were appropriately, or the responses were such that a determination was made that while this process may have had some steps that could have been handled in a less in a way that resulted in less findings, that ultimately the conclusion of Mr. Clark, the law department, as well as the ethics officer, was that moving forward would not put the city at risk. Now, the fact that the Chief Procurement Officer, Mr. Clark, as well as our Commissioner of Watershed, inherited this project speaks volumes to them, although they had no fingerprints on it, making sure that the review and the consideration of the process and the proponents, that it met with our minimum legal standards. And so I really want to commend those two professionals for the work that they've done. And I will say also that I've asked Commissioner Browning if the interim tasks that are already under contract, do we have time relative to work continuing without interruption as we continue to vet and consider these A&E contracts? And I've been assured by the commissioner that I think now through August that they have contracts in place that will cover the interim. So I have not heard from the department that we are at risk of interruption of the work, the important work that the department is doing at this time. So for those reasons, I would rather us go into executive session now, get clarity, because I do think the committee heard all of the information about the process at the committee level. Thank you.
Ms. Shepherd?
Actually, Ms. Archibald just answered the questions that I was going to come back and ask, was that what happened in committee, and was this thoroughly discussed in committee? And apparently, based on what Ms. Archibald was saying, all of this was vetted thoroughly in committee, and it came out committee with no findings. But again, if we need to go, I think the only option now is to vote up or down, or go into executive session to hear from the law department and procurement officers just to see. But she answered my question because I want to understand what happened in the committee meeting, and she just explained that to me. Thank you. So motion is to go. Okay.
The substitute motion on the floor is refer back to committee.
Repeat that, Ms. Moore.
I said the motion on the floor now is your substitute motion to refer it back to committee.
I think I'm going to pull that back because I don't see the need to. I think we're in a whole nother situation now. So I'm going to
is the seconder willing to withdraw the second? I forgot who seconded the motion.
Ms. Boone.
Ms. Boone, are you willing to withdraw your second? Okay,
yes.
On unanimous consent of members, unless there's an objection, we will withdraw Ms. Shepherd and Boone's motion to refer it back to committee. So now the motion on the floor is the Hillis amendment. Okay, Mr. Hillis?
Thank you. I just wanted to provide some clarity. I didn't mean that the committee didn't do its work. As I mentioned, this has been sitting in committee held for many months. We have not been really given any updates about it, and at least as one member of the committee, I was not told that it was going to move forward when it did. But much to the other points just made, I don't think sending this back to committee is going to accomplish anything other than it just sit around, and we still are not going to have an A&E contract. So whatever the council does, I believe it needs to be a final action, whether we,
file this, or we call for a revision, or what. So, thank you.
Well, right now, Mr. Hillis, we have your motion on the floor to amend it, which just to capitalize it is the amendment that would substitute some vendors for other vendors. So what do you want to do with your motion?
So, we can have a vote on that motion.
You want to do what?
We can have a vote on that motion and go from there.
Okay, so you just want to vote that motion up or down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Shepherd?
I like to think we can do a substitute motion. I know the night is late, guys, and it's not almost 9, but I think this is really something that we need to hear from the law department about, or that's just my motion. If y'all don't second it, I'll go over where we are.
Ms. Shepherd, before you make the motion, I was just asking members, just so for the public's sake, if we're going to go into executive session, can we finish the other 2 standing committees before we do that, just so the public doesn't have to try to bounce back and forth in and out of our screen? Is that your motion you're going to make?
I'm fine. I can do it that way. Go into executive session after we finish with the next committee, 2 committees.
Okay. So if there's no objection, and if there is, please let me know that we table this item until after the last 2 standing committees. Okay? Or did you have anything else on city utilities, Ms. Archibald?
I did not. That was the only item.
Okay. All right. So let's go to public safety and zoning, and then we'll go into executive session.
Madam Chair, do we have to vote to go into executive session, or are we just going to go into executive session?
Yes, we do, but we're not going to vote until we get ready to go.
Okay.
So right now we're going to Public Safety Legal Administration Committee. The Honorable Joyce Shepard, Chair. Ms. Overstreet, did you have something before we did that? Ms. Overstreet?
Yes, Council President. Yes, Madam President. I was just trying to see if someone was working on, you know what? Never mind.
Okay.
I'm just,
all right. Thanks. Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Public Safety Committee, we have one resolution that's coming out that we had conditions on, so let me read it in. A resolution of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the reappointment of City of Atlanta retiree Elder Dancy as interim Chief of the Department of Corrections for an annual compensation not to exceed $125,000.00 pursuant to Section 3-505 of the Charter of the City of Atlanta and for other purposes. It came out favorable on conditions, and the conditions was that there was concerns about the fact that Mr. Dancy did not have the basic correction training, which qualifies him to be a jailer. He had to have a certification. So the mayor's office has come back that Mr. Dancy's ratio from the basic jail officer course to certified officer scheduled for July the 12th through the 19th as a part of the condition. But the conditions was that he had to get certification within 6 months from the time that this legislation is passed. So the motion is to approve on those conditions unless my colleagues have questions.
Okay, the motion is to adopt. Ms. Archibald?
Just curious, would having him as the interim chief put to jeopardy any certifications or standings that the city currently has?
Well, Ms. Archibald, I was actually told that, to be honest with you, the last 2 interim corrections chiefs actually were not certified at the time that they actually were voted in. That was Chief Ryan, Chief Ryan and Chief Mitchell. But that was a question that came flagged up in the committee. And so as a result of that, that was how we came up with the condition that he had to go get certification. Now, we would have to ask the law department if there's any concerns around that, or the mayor's office if they want to speak to that.
Okay. Ms. Archibald? No, I still have
I wanted to know if it puts at risk any certification or standing, because the last thing we want to do is to be detaining people without all of the boxes checked on our authority and ability to do. I don't know that it's a problem. I just want to know that it's not a problem.
And who would you? Yes. Is Miss Amber Robinson there? Or someone from the law department?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm here and available to. This is Amber Robinson from the Department of Law. And
will we
hello?
please unmute?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. And Ms. Frazier is asking to be unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
Yes. So as to Council Member Shepherd's question, there is a state law that governs the post-certification of persons whom are jailers. That state law applies regardless of any amendments to this legislation approving this particular appointment, and set forth that certain jailers must receive post-certification. There would be no need to amend this legislation to restate the state law, which of course applies in all cases. However, whether or not this particular appointee requires additional certification would be a state determination, as I believe it was stated in the committee that this particular appointee is post-certified as a law enforcement officer. So the determination as to whether or not that would be sufficient under post-certification rules is a determination that the State Peace Officer Standards and Training Council would make. In regards to any accreditation requirements, those would not be legal requirements. There is nothing in the code that sets forth any requirement for accreditation, which would be private, as well as there's nothing in state law that sets forth any accreditation requirements. And I think to reiterate a statement made by Council Member Shepherd, the previous two appointees in this position were in the same position as post-certified law enforcement officers, and no such condition was placed on their appointment.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, let's open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Madam President, what are we voting on? Are we voting to change, put new language in the title?
No, we're voting to adopt the legislation as it came out of committee.
To adopt the legislation as it came out of committee. Okay.
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
I vote yay, and I'd like to explain my vote after the vote is carried.
Okay. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
I'm going to vote nay.
Okay. No. Ms. Winslow votes no. Mr. Bond votes yes. All votes are cast.
A point of order, Madam President.
Okay. What's the point?
Just from hearing her statements, I believe Councilmember Winslow may believe we're voting on the item that was in the City Utilities Committee.
Okay, Ms. Winslow,
we moved on to public safety. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, in favor. Okay, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Hillis.
Mr. Bond votes yes. All votes are cast.
The vote is now closed. Populating vote.
13 yeas, 1 nay. It's adopted. Next item.
I'd like to explain my vote, Madam President.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Bond. Yes.
Second, I'll be quick. I just wanted to say for the record that the point that the two previous people who've occupied this position didn't have that certification is nothing to brag about. And it's not a point that should be made for making that same mistake over again. You know, Georgia's post certification has different standards for different types of law enforcement officers. General post standards for law enforcement officers is one thing. Post for jail certified officers is another. An officer who is patrolling the street and is a part of a police department doesn't supervise or is responsible for the care, custody, and control of human beings. That is a separate certification offered by post. And I believe that the person who is running the department, who is responsible for the care, custody, and control, and safety of the employees and the detainees, needs to have that training where they're making decisions, management decisions that affect the employees, that affect the people who are detained, and that ultimately may play into what liability those individuals who are employees, including the manager, and are affected by the decisions that they make in running the facility could expose the city to certain liabilities that officers who may have distinguished careers but never had that training may not be aware of, and thus protects the city ultimately. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Next item.
Madam Chair, that ends our report for today.
Okay. Thank you. We now go to Zoning Committee. The Honorable Amir Faroqi, Chair.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 7 items to present this evening. A few of them will come in a block, but the first one is item number 1, legislation number 20-1729, zoning case number Z-2081, the text amendment that reads, an ordinance to amend the zoning code to add a new chapter 41 entitled, quote, Westside Park Affordable Workforce Housing District, the neighborhoods of Almond Park, Cary Park, Center Hill, Grove Park, Rockdale, and West Highlands, to define certain terms, provide for related requirements, procedures, and incentives, and to amend Chapter 28 to allow for the transfer of development rights for unused density bonus, favorable on substitute, and move to approve.
Okay, we have Mr. Hillis.
Yes, I first have an amendment to offer to this legislation.
Okay.
Motion to amend. The amendment is this is to amend in order to revise Section 5. And Section 5 currently reads, this ordinance shall take effect 60 days after adoption by the City Council and approval by the Mayor. It'll instead now read, this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon the adoption by the City Council and approval by the Mayor.
Second, Faroqi.
Okay. Is it a second by Faroqi, motion by Hillis? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, let's open the vote on Hillis' amendment.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Winslow?
In favor.
Both Winslow and Bond in favor. All votes are passed.
The vote is now closed. Populating votes.
14 yeas, 0 nays. It's adopted. Next item. Back to the paper. Any more amendments, Mr. Hillis?
No, Madam President. Thank you.
All right. So the motion is to adopt.
The vote is
Vote
open.
on the paper as amended. Thank you.
Will everyone please vote?
The vote is not open yet. There it is. Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Winslow?
In favor.
Mr. Shook? Mr. Shook? Bond and Winslow are affirmative. All votes are cast.
The vote is now closed. Populating votes.
All votes are cast. 13 yeas, 0 nays. It's adopted as amended. Mr. Hillis?
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to thank my colleagues for supporting this zoning overlay that'll apply to 6 neighborhoods in District 9. We have the city itself has created some gentrification already realized, plus some impending gentrification. This hopes to prevent by plopping down the city's largest park, isn't in the west side part, just southeast of the former site of Perry Homes, now West Highland, and just north of the Grove Park neighborhood. So we've been working for quite some time on this overlay, the first overlay in the city that will also, in addition to rental product, it will also have oversight over for sale product. And again, hopefully curb some of the gentrification that's occurring in these neighborhoods due to the city's own doing. And we're grateful we're going to have the city's largest park over there, but we have to address other things such as planning, zoning, and transportation as well. And we're also, of course, we all know now about Microsoft coming to the Grove Park neighborhood, which has even fueled that fire even more. So again, just want to thank all the neighborhoods and the 2 MPUs that this is in, and thank my colleagues for supporting this again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Item number 2, 21-00145, 637 Willoughby Way. An ordinance to waive the subdivision code to allow the development of 3 single-family homes on the subdivided parcel. Came favorable out of committee. Motion to approve.
Motion to adopt. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Winslow?
In favor.
Ms. Winslow, Mr. Bond in favor. All votes are cast.
The vote is now closed. Populating votes.
Fourteen yeas, 0 nays. It is adopted. Next item.
Next item is the ordinances for first read. I think there's 5 items. Items number 3 through 7. We'll take them as a block. Item number 3, 21-0150. Zoning case number Z-21-11. 378, 380, 388, 394, 400, 406, 412, 418, 424, 430, 436, and 442 Climax Street. An ordinance to rezone the parcels from R4A, single-family residential, to MRC3, mixed residential commercial. Item number 4, 21-00151, zoning case number Z2113, 1787 Stanton Road. An ordinance to rezone the parcel from R4, single-family residential, to PDH, planned development housing. Item number 5, 21-0-0152, zoning case number U2102, 2700 Butner Road. An ordinance to grant a special use permit for a daycare center. Item number 6, 21-0-0153, zoning case number Z2109, 285 Nathan Avenue. An ordinance to rezone the parcel from I2 heavy industrial and I2C heavy industrial conditional to PDMU planned development mixed use. And finally, item number 7, 21-0-0154, zoning case number Z-21-20, a text amendment, an ordinance to amend the zoning code development controls to provide for bonus floor area ratio for developments that provide affordable housing in SCI 3 English Avenue Special Public Interest District. Those 5 items, items 3 through 7, are first read and are to refer to ZRB and zoning committee.
And let them follow that course. Is that it, Mr. Chair?
That is the report of the zoning committee, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, if you would indulge me, I think it would be in the best interest of the public if we go ahead and do the personal papers and go into executive session after we do all of the referrals. That way, the public will not have to hang on and come back for the papers to be referred. When we come back from executive session, we can consider that last item and then adjourn. If there's no objection from the council, we will follow that course. All right, now we go to papers for immediate consideration. We have one, Mr. Bond.
1 second, Madam President, trying to pull it up. Okay. This is trying to find the Elms number on here. Here we go. Elms ID number 23633. A resolution to establish the City of Atlanta Fulton County Joint Committee consisting of representatives from the City of Atlanta and the Fulton County government to develop a framework to assist with the Fulton County Sheriff with severe overcrowding at the Fulton County Jail and for other purposes. Whereas on September 6, 2018, the mayor signed an executive order to end the city's decades-long contract with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and transfer all remaining immigrant detainees out of the Atlanta Detention Center, whereas the Atlanta City Council has adopted legislation in support of criminal justice reforms, including the expansion of pre-arrest diversion, decriminalization of marijuana through reclassification and bail reform as necessary steps toward shared commitment to the end and use of arrests and jail as solutions to the problems of extreme poverty, addiction, and mental health challenges. And whereas the Atlanta City Detention Center, 11-story, 471,000 square foot facility, which has the capacity to hold approximately 1,300 detainees, currently has an average daily population of about 150 people or less, whereas the city previously adopted criminal justice reforms which have led to a significant decline in the average daily population inside the Atlanta City Detention Center. The facility typically holds individuals accused of violations of city ordinances and traffic violations. However, crime overall in the city has increased, and this has led to severe overcrowding in the Fulton County Jail. And whereas the City of Atlanta and Fulton County are committed to keeping all of our residents safe, and whereas the city and Fulton County have unique opportunities to bridge the gap between restorative justice and social change, resulting in enhanced public safety. And whereas the Atlanta City Council is committed to a strong collaborative relationship between the City of Atlanta and Fulton County and a deepening city-county partnership so as to enhance public safety, improve quality of life, improve conditions for pretrial detainees in community-based mental health services and case management, and to ensure successful reintegration, whereas there are numerous areas of potential collaboration with the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County, the Fulton County Sheriff, and our justice partners, and whereas due to excessive crowding conditions at the Fulton County Jail and the lack of adaptive bed space, hundreds of the detainees are forced to sleep in boats on the floor of the jail, Fulton County Jail. Oops, sorry. I lost my space. Whereas the Atlanta Fulton County Jail also remains the largest de facto mental health facility in the metropolitan area, whereas despite the current crisis at the Fulton County Jail, the Atlanta City Detention Center sits mostly empty. Whereas by partnering with Fulton County, the City of Atlanta could save an estimated $18 million and get out of the corrections business, while also underscoring the city's commitment to public safety to ensure services continue to be provided while not double taxing residents of Atlanta and Fulton County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, that the City of Atlanta and Fulton County Joint Committee is hereby established to help develop a framework to assist the Fulton County Sheriff with severe overcrowding at the Fulton County Jail. Be it further resolved that the Joint Committee shall consist of 12 members, appointed as follows. 1 member shall be appointed by the mayor or her designee. 1 member shall be appointed by the council president or her designee. 1 member shall be from the Public Safety Legal Administration, should be the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee chair. 1 member shall be 2 members shall be from the Atlanta City Council. 1 member shall be a judge from Fulton County Superior Court. 1 member shall be a chief judge of the Atlanta Municipal Court. 1 member shall be a judge from the Atlanta Municipal Court. 3 members of the Fulton County Commission, and 1 member shall be the Fulton County Sheriff or his designee. Be it further resolved that the members of the Joint Committee shall not require council confirmation. Be it further resolved that the Joint Committee shall submit formal recommendations to alleviate the overcrowding conditions at the Fulton County Jail to the Atlanta City Council and the Fulton County Commission no more than 60 days following its first meeting. Be it further resolved that the areas of focus of the Joint Committee shall include, but not be limited to, potential lease or sale of the Atlanta City Detention Center to Fulton County, and the expansion of wraparound services for pretrial detainees. Be it further resolved that the City of Atlanta Municipal Clerk is authorized to direct you to provide a copy of this resolution to the Fulton County Board of Commissioners and its offices of the Fulton County Sheriff upon adoption. Be it finally resolved that all resolutions and parts of resolutions in conflict herewith are hereby waived to the extent of the conflict. Madam President, I move approval.
Is there a second?
Winslow seconds. Winslow seconds.
All right, second by Winslow, motion by Bond. Did you have anything to say, Mr. Bond, before I call on the list?
Well, just that we had extended conversation about a similar piece of legislation in committee. I remain convinced that Atlanta's hands are not clean, and we have culpability and an obligation to alleviate conditions that our sister government finds itself in with their facility. We contribute to the population of that overcrowding by our policing and work. As a matter of fact, we, the city of Atlanta, some 15 years ago, broke an agreement that we had with Fulton County that alleviated overcrowding and guaranteed every person who was arrested in Atlanta a pretrial hearing and a bond hearing prior to long-term incarceration. You know, we had extended conversations around this in committee. Those of us who have toured the Fulton County jail, for myself, and I've worked in corrections, and I've seen what I thought were worse conditions at the original City of Atlanta pretrial detention center, which is now the Gateway Center, where the building was built to hold 400 individuals. We had an average daily population of 1,600, which created the need for the current ACDC. The current ACDC was built under a new philosophy of corrections, a more humane, clean, and safe philosophy that allows, called direct supervision, that allows officers to be in the pod with the individuals. Those of us who have toured it recently, and if you've been there, you know that every person has their own cell. They have multiple showers, multiple bathrooms, plenty of space. You compare that to the Fulton County facility, it is designed under an old corrections philosophy, which is clearly unsafe. It is unsanitary, and these folks are living in what now amounts to be third world conditions, you know, just miles from us, not even 2 miles from our facility. Our facility is empty. Basically, the upper floors could easily help to alleviate the overcrowding at the Fulton County Jail in a humane way, and much in the same spirit as this administration, the same tack that they took by cutting the contract with ICE, not because of the inmates that were contained in our facility, who were largely from the islands and Puerto Rico, but they took a stand on the conditions of ICE detainees that were border detainees, some 3,000 to 4,000 miles away. And if we can be that brave and that sensitive to say that we are not going to stand to see human beings in those type of conditions, for folks who are half a country away, we can certainly do it, or make an effort to at least discuss it, to alleviate the conditions of African Americans and European Americans barely a mile and a half away. And so this is a study group that will make recommendations to us. There was some discussion in committee about being fair, about the administration's paper, which contemplates long-term solutions for ACDC over an 18-month period, and then holding them both. The papers were effectively held not through majority votes, but for the lack thereof. But I would suggest to you that that is the compromise that was put forth in committee was no compromise at all. The discussion about ACDC and what will happen to it over the next 18 months, it doesn't affect people in real time. What's happening at Bright Street right at this very moment is a disgrace. It is a disgrace. And we have the power to do something about it. And I said this in committee. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. And so if we do nothing, we will be indifferent to those who are accused, who are there under pretrial circumstances. They are accused of crimes, but they haven't been found guilty, and they are human beings that deserve not to be on the floor, not to have 50 men to a shower, not to be in cells that are 8 by 10 and still expected to socially distance 6 feet apart within that condition. And so I would ask for your support today. We're about to go on functionally what amounts to a break. 5 weeks will go by before any action is taken on the similar legislation in the Public Safety Committee, even if it's passed out of committee next week. And I think that is too long. You know, it's one thing to have conditions exist that are negative and you're not aware of it, right? You don't know what's going on, so you don't know that you can take an action or should respond to it. Well, you know, now we know. And through our actions, we can do something about it. We can change the condition of people. And if that's what criminal justice reform advocates and those who support it always proclaim, to say, hey, we want to improve the conditions of people underneath these circumstances, then, you know, waiting 6 weeks to get people off the floor, I mean, that doesn't sit well with me, when we could be taking actions to alleviate that problem. And of course, you know, this isn't going to solve all of Fulton County's problems. They need to build a new facility. They need to build something new and adequate, because when they built the current jail, it was at capacity when they built it. However, whether they started construction tonight, it would still be 3 years before those conditions over there would change. You know, if we decided that we're going to turn ACDC into a center of hope or whatever it's called, you know, a new, community facility, you know, it will be years before that's underway. And the way that procurement is going in the city of Atlanta, it might be 10 years if they continue to do it the way that it's being managed and handled today. But we can do something about the human condition just barely miles from us this year, if we're so inclined. And so I'm asking all of my colleagues to put forth an effort, let the professionals and representatives who are elected have a discussion about whether or not this is something feasible, and let's get the answer back as quickly as possible. So either keeping the people who are in those horrible third world conditions in mind as we move forward. And I'll yield there, Madam President.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam President, I want to speak to Mr. Bond's legislation he's proposing today. I followed it. I have already printed out the copy that we have held. He literally just read pretty much the same legislation that was held last Monday at our council meeting. It was a tie vote. And so as a result of it being a tie vote, and we could not move out of committee, and we went through hours of determining what happens to the tie because we only had 6 people there. Madam President, you were there, so I don't have to reiterate this with you, but for other folks who may not know what happened in our committee last week. So, and based on law, if you have a tie, you cannot break a tie. We went through many issues in terms of how to break that tie. Couldn't come to a conclusion. And finally, city law says that if you can't break a tie, it is automatically held. So the paper has been held as a result of that. The paper was held on conditions, however. The mayor's office, a lot of the things that Mr. Bond is talking about are things that we have actually talked about in committee in terms of the fact that I agree with Mr. Bond that the county jail is horrible. So his resolution talks about, his proposal talks about having a study group formed that's comprised of all the folks he talked about to talk about what we can do to actually alleviate the pressure In the meantime, the mayor's office also at our public safety meeting asked for this particular legislation to be held. She asked, and here's what the address came from the mayor's office. As the Public Safety Legal Administration, she's addressing the council members. As the Public Safety Legal Administration of Finance Executive Committee, consider Resolution 21-R-3212. It's important to provide the administration position. We ask that the Public Safety Legal Administration and the Finance Executive Committee hold this resolution for the following reasons. The mayor and her administration are already working with the Fulton County on partnership opportunities related to programs, facilities, and funding. Several meetings between the administration and the county has already occurred. The mayor is scheduled to meet with Chairman Pitts to further discuss partnership opportunities. This committee will potentially slow down progress on finalizing a recommendation that could be presented to the City Council. The establishment of this committee disregards the countless hours of input and engagement from the community and reimagining ACDC Task Force. The task force is authorized by the Atlanta City Council on May 20th, 2019 through 19-R-3622 and had 11 co-sponsors. The city and ACDC are not the only options that Fulton County has to alleviate their overcrowding issues. According to their own jail population reduction strategies, they are seeking to establish IGAs with regional partners to lease space and onboarding and jail expediters to improve release processes. In addition, as conveyed by the Fulton County Sheriff during the recent work session, over 700 of those incarcerated at the Fulton County Jail haven't seen a judge in over a year. An issue that recently a sworn-in district attorney and coming into the pandemic to assist with alleviating. So what the mayor's office asked, not only was to hold this paper, but they also are holding the papers to close the jail. They asked to hold both papers. They asked that both papers be held as they work through this process. The other thing that I've said that I would say to Mr. Bond, again, I am absolutely in support of us working to alleviate overcrowding in the jail. But I'm also saying what we also did with these papers, the one in particular with Mr. Bond, it says that I asked the mayor's office time certain that they will come back with answers to these questions. So it's just not something that's been held out there. At the time certain they came back with, they asked that we come back after recess and our committee meeting on April the 26th, that they will come back to come up with what they've come out of these committees and these discussions they're having to bring something back to us. So that was how the tie got involved in terms of the yays and nays, the pros and cons of that. I expressed to Mr. Bond, even in terms of this legislation, that he just actually went back into committee again because he wants to get passed today because he doesn't agree with the position that the committee took, is that the same thing is going to happen. You got to appoint members from the mayor's office. You got to find all these people and appoint them so that by the time we do all these appointments and going through this process, it will be again by the end of April because we're going on recess for the first 2 weeks of April. So we'll be after recess so we even get to that point. So by that time, I've asked the mayor again if they would come back and give us categorically what positions they've taken in that time. So that's where the paper is and why it's being held. So Mr. Bond, again, is introducing the paper today because he doesn't agree with that position. So he's asking for us to vote it on today, bypassing the committee process for going through another proposal with the full council. So I'm just letting you all know this. I won't be in support of this. I believe that we should wait and go through this process. I'm just letting you all know that. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. I.
I'm going to make a motion to refer back to committee.
Is there a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
Second by Westmoreland, motion by I to refer to committee. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I'd like to speak to the motion.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't disagree with the fact of what the Chair of Public Safety has just described, but I want to point out that I have the right to disagree with the motion or the stance of the committee. I have the right to avail myself of options, just as all members of council do, that are afforded to us as members of the Atlanta City Council. I am aware of the letter that you read from the mayor's office about that report to say that the administration has had and is having several meetings with Fulton County. You know, that is, I won't argue that letter, the facts of that letter, but that is not accurate. The last communication from our mayor to the chair of the Fulton County Commission, the jail was not on the table. And I mentioned that to the mayor's representative. And I said, if something has changed, to please let me know. And that answer was not forthcoming. And again, you know, we have the power to do something about the human, very real human condition that exists at Fulton County. I put forth this paper today because I'm very sensitive and have worked under the conditions that exist at the Fulton County Jail. I have been there. I've done that in my professional life, and it is horrible. And I am imploring you as members, as human beings, to go ahead and establish this committee. As I have read this resolution and it's double in committee, we do not have to go through if approved, would not have to go through the council appointment process to populate this committee. It says plainly within the resolution that as soon as this is passed and becomes policy, this body can begin meeting. You know, and even if the mayor has made overtures and they're scheduling an appointment between our mayor and the chair of the Fulton County Commission, Ms. Shepard is correct. It affects more than just our two entities. It is the state court at Fulton County, it's the sheriff, it's the district attorney, it's our court. All of us need to be at the table, I would say, sooner than later. We're talking about the conditions of human beings. And, you know, notwithstanding what happens with the Reform the Jail Task Force, you know, I voted in support of forming that task force so that citizens can give us what task force give us, their opinion and conclusion on their work. That is not the policy of the city of Atlanta. The city council makes the laws and policy of the city of Atlanta. And what I'm asking you for today is not that I'm disgruntled about what the committee has done, but I am paying personally for what I have seen at Fulton County and the indifference that I mentioned is painful to me, that we would be so casual in our response in trying to get this situation addressed after we have heard from the sheriff, after the sheriff, who was our very capable commissioner of corrections, chief of corrections, has told us his professional opinion of the situation he thus finds himself in, and also has revealed to us the indifference of the administration that he once worked for, and the silence as the employee of that administration he had to endure to be a good team player of that administration. But the truth has come out now. We are aware now. And we, I feel, need to do something about it. You know, I've been arrested before as a protester and activist, and it wasn't fun. But I knew that I was getting out of jail, a day or so, after we went to court and, after, all of that. Some of these folks have been in jail for a year. And it's not just the previous district attorney's fault as to why these people haven't been before. Over 60%, any given day, 65 to 85% of the individuals who are in that jail are there because of policing in Atlanta. The Atlanta police have taken them, rightfully so, to that facility. And so we're taxpayers in Atlanta. The majority of us are taxpayers also in Fulton County. I believe that we are obligated to work with our sister governments as we have in the past to ameliorate these problems. But I would ask you, if people are going to vote to send this paper to committee also, I would rather you just vote it down and show the world your indifference. Now, just vote it up or down. Either we're going to get serious and say we're going to address our public safety problems in an immediate emergency manner, as the sheriff and our former corrections chief has stated it to us as it is an emergency, or we're not. What was left out of what happened in committee is I objected to the 5 weeks. I know it's going to be 5 weeks. That's 5 more weeks of people sleeping on the floor. That's 5 more weeks of people being stacked on top of each other. That's 5 more weeks of nothing really being discussed, nothing really being done. That at least could have some action, because we could put this committee together, and guess what? They might come back and say, this may not be the panacea, this might not have the answer, and then the county is free to do something else. Or they could come back and say, hey, we can alleviate the overcrowding and all these other issues that the sheriff alliterated to us when he came to the work session, and do something positive to fix the condition of people.
2 minutes. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Bond.
Well, I'll yield there in case I need to respond to someone else. But I would just ask that you not support, don't send this to committee. I'm not going to vote in support of it. I hope that we would pass this and get underway to alleviate the suffering of our brothers and sisters interned over in Bright Street.
Okay, the motion is to refer. I see no one else to speak. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
We're still waiting
Everyone, please vote.
We're waiting on the system.
Apologies.
I think we broke the system. Mr. Clerk, here we go. The vote's open.
Please vote.
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Nay.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
No.
Okay, 2 noes from Mr. Bond, Ms. Winslow. All votes are cast.
Boone is a no.
Okay, I think we already have your vote, Ms. Boone. Ms. Boone is a no. Please hold, our system is having issues. Okay, votes are being populated now. Please let this, let's see, somebody got knocked off. Hold on, let me go to my text. Miss Hyde needs to be let back in, please. We're still populating the vote. on Ms. Winslow's vote to be populated? Okay. I think we're going to have to do voice votes, Mr. Chair. We only need Ms. Winslow's vote. Ms. Walden, are you type to me? Let me know. Are you not able to fix her vote? She voted no. Vote, please. All right, we have it all now. It's 9 yeas, 5 nays. The motion to refer back to Public Safety Legal Administration Committee has been adopted. I will now go to items to be referred, starting with Ms. Boone, Mr. Bond, Mr. Faroki, Mr. Hillis, Ms. Hyde, Ms. Overstreet, Ms. Smith, and Ms. Winslow, in that order. Okay?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, thank you, Madam President. An ordinance by Councilmember Andrea Boone and Councilmember Dustin Hillis, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or designee to prohibit parking on Collier Ridge Drive Northwest, signs to waive section 15092 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to authorize the City of Atlanta Department of Transportation to install signage at the appropriate locations along the prohibited area and for other purposes. That is Elms ID number 22624.
Okay. Was that prohibiting parking on Collier Ridge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have it on my sheet as 23624. But we'll figure that out, but it's Transportation Committee.
Next item, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea Boone and Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, a resolution authorizing the mayor or designee to install a portrait of Bishop Barbara Lewis King at the Barbara Lewis King Interfaith Chapel at the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and for other purposes.
It is Elms number 23625 to Transportation Committee.
Next item.
Yes, go ahead.
Next ordinance by Councilmember Andrea Boone, an ordinance authorizing the transfer of $5,000.00 from the Council District 10 carry forward account to the Council District 10 distribution account to continue serving the Atlanta community and for the public good and for other purposes. Elms number 22635.
Elms number 23635. And 68. We got it. Thank you, Mr. You're welcome, Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Madam President. A resolution by Michael Julian Bond, a resolution to establish a working group to review, possibly amend, and improve, but not consider the repeal of Ordinance 18-0-1045, which instituted bail reform in the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
That's Elms number 23622 to Public Safety Legal Administration. Mr. Faroki.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 3 items. The first one's Elms ID number 23615, an ordinance by Councilmember Mayor Faroki, authorizing the mayor or her designee to install a freeway stop at the intersection of Mell Avenue Northeast and Iverson Street Northeast and for other purposes.
23615 to Transportation.
Elms number 23616, an ordinance by Councilmember Mayor Faroki, authorizing the mayor or her designee to install traffic calming devices on Willoughby Way Northeast between Ashley Avenue Northeast and 830 Willoughby Way Northeast on Willoughby Way Northeast between Ross McGill Boulevard Northeast and Ashley Avenue Northeast, and on 12th Street Northeast between Juniper Street Northeast and Piedmont Road Northeast, to waive certain provisions of Section 13884D of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
23616 to transportation.
And finally, Elms ID number 23622, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki to rezone property located at 320 North Highland Avenue from RG2 HC20L SA 1BL, Residential General Sector 2, Inman Park Historic District SA Beltline Overlay, to MRC1C HC20L SA 1BL, Mixed Residential Commercial District 1, Conditional Inman Park Historic District SA Beltline Overlay, and to rezone property located at 342 Copenhill Avenue Northeast from RG2 HC20L SA 1BL, Residential General Sector 2, Inman Park Historic District SA 1 Beltline Overlay, to RG2C HC20L SA BL, Residential General Sector 2, Conditional Inman Park Historic District SA 1 Beltline Overlay, and for other purposes.
23622 to zoning and ZRB. Or ZRB and zoning. Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Madam President. I have three, and I'm circle back around to me. I may have a fourth. The first one is Elms 23630, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing a transfer of $12,000.00 from District 9 carry forward account to the Department of City Planning for the purpose of providing matching funds for the Northwest Atlanta Industrial Area Rate Cluster Plan and for other purposes.
23630 to Finance Executive Committee.
Second, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the mayor or her designee to install traffic calming devices on Ada Avenue Northwest between Hall Street Northwest and Brooks Avenue Northwest in order to reduce speeding, to waive certain provisions in Section 138-84D of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for other purposes, and that is Elms 23579.
23579, the Transportation Committee.
Next one is Elms ID 23580, an ordinance by council members Dustin Hillis and Andrea Boone, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or her designee to install traffic calming devices on Eleanor Terrace Northwest between Skipper Drive Northwest and Kings Grant Drive Northwest in order to reduce speeding, to waive certain provisions in Section 138-84D of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes. And that is all I have now, and I may have a fourth at the end.
23580, the Transportation Committee. Ms. I. Ms. I. Okay, I don't hear Ms. I. Ms. Overstreet.
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Go ahead, Ms. I.
I'm sorry. You all had me on mute. Mine is Elms 23637, an ordinance by Councilmember Jennifer and I, an ordinance authorizing the City of Atlanta on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs to accept a donation of artwork installation on Greenwood in Virginia Highland, valued at $17,500 from Andrew Filer and Laura Adams, to accept a donation of $2,500.00, the donated maintenance funds to support the future maintenance of the donated artwork, to authorize the depositing of all donated funds accepted pursuant to this ordinance in the Public Art Trust Fund and for other purposes.
That's Glenwood Art, and that's donation of, is that the one?
It's a donation of a piece of art.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the right ounce number. Is that
I'm sorry. 23637.
Okay. The Finance Executive Committee.
All right. The next one is 23627, and it is an ordinance by Councilmember Jennifer Ide authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,000 from the District 6 carry forward account to the Olmsted Linear Park Alliance to support the Druid Hills group of the DeKalb Remembrance Project for the Equal Justice Initiative, Porter Turner Lynching Marker, and for other purposes.
23627 to Finance Executive Committee.
That's it.
And Ms. Overstreet.
Okay. An ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, an ordinance authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $2,500.00 from the District 11 carry forward account to National Church Residences to support the virtual Rise and Shine, a breakfast champion older adults, and for other purposes.
Okay, 23631 to Finance Executive Committee.
And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you. My first one is Elms 23623. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2021 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of X dollars awarded to the city pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to transfer appropriations to provide for up to X amount of dollars, for the total of which shall be utilized to respond to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19 and its negative economic impacts, for the provision of the government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency, to make necessary investments in health emergency, to make in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure, for premium pay for eligible workers performing essential work during COVID-19 pandemic, and which may be transferred to assist with any of these efforts without specific limitations and for other related purposes. Are you still there?
Yes, I was muted. 23623 to Finance Executive Committee.
Thank you. My next paper is Elms 23634, an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith authorizing the transfer of $20,000.00 from the City Council District 1 carry forward account to the Council District 1 salaries permanent part-time account and for other purposes.
23634 to Finance Executive Committee.
Thank you. And Elms 23629, an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith to rezone property having a street address of 1085 Avondale Avenue and 1045, 1049, 1059, and 1055 Lester Avenue from R4 zoning district to the MR4AC zoning district.
23629 to ZRB and zoning.
Thank you. And Elms 23628. This is a CDP companion paper, an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith, CDP-21-blank, an ordinance to amend the land use element of the 2016 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property at 1085 Avondale Avenue and 1045, 1049, 1055, and 1059 Lester Avenue from the single-family residential land use designation to the high-density residential land use designation.
23628, CDHS.
Thank you. And my last paper is Elms 23626, an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith to amend Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 1092B of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances as to provide an exemption from the distance requirements for package stores licensed to sell malt liquor and or wine by the package listed in section listed of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for one wine specialty shop located in that parcel of land known as 72 Georgia Avenue, Suite 300, Atlanta, Georgia 30312, and for other purposes.
23626 to Public Safety Legal Administration.
Thank you, and that ends it for me.
Ms. Winslow? Make sure you're unmuted, Ms. Winslow.
I'm sorry, just give me a minute so I can find it. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Thank you for your patience. An ordinance by Councilmember Cleta Winslow authorizing the mayor or her designee to install speed humps on Mosley Place Southwest between Wellington Street Southwest and Chickamauga Place Southwest, not to exceed $30,000 to be paid from the District Renew Atlanta Bond Project account and for other purposes. And the ELMS number is 23636. 23636. Yeah,
23636.
Yes, ma'am.
Transportation Committee. Got it. Mr. Hillis, did you have anything else?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. And thanks to the council staff for getting us to me. This is ELMS number 23638, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis to waive City Code Section 15-07.006 of the subdivision ordinance of the City of Atlanta for the purpose of facilitating an acknowledgement of 585 West Drive Northwest as two separate legal non-conforming lots of record and for other purposes. And just please note, staff, that there's a scriber's error in facilitating. If that can be corrected, please.
23638, the Zoning Committee.
And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other papers to be referred? All right. So now we will, just because we've had so much time, I'd ask Madam Chair, Ms. Archibald, if you would read the caption of the paper to which we're going into executive session for, and then I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Is this a joke or is this? Okay, all right, here we go. All right, 20-R-4571, an amended resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute agreements for RFP-S12000311, Architectural Engineering, Design, and Construction Management Services, RFP-S12000311A, with Arcadis/BPA Joint Venture, a joint venture of Arcadis US, Inc., and Brindley Peters and Associates, Inc., RFP-S12000311, with Atlanta Water Partners Joint Venture, a joint venture of Jacob Project Management Company and Engineering Design Technologies, Inc., RFP-S12000311, with CDM Smith Benchmark Joint Venture, a joint venture of CDM Smith, Inc. and Benchmark Management, LLC, RFP-S12000311, with SWR Joint Venture, a joint venture of Freese and Nichols, Inc., Wade Trim, Inc., and Williams Russell and Johnson, Inc., RFP-S12000311, with H2R Joint Venture, a joint venture of Hazen and Sawyer, TC, and R2T, Inc., an RFP-S12000311 with HDR Rhodafox Joint Venture, a joint venture of HDR Engineering, Inc., and Rhodafox Construction Control Services Corporation to provide architectural engineering design and construction management services to the Department of Watershed Management on a task order basis for an initial term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options, and to add funding to a joint task order fund in an amount not to exceed $5 million and 0 cents. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from the project and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. The motion was to adopt.
Okay, the motion was to adopt, and Ms. Hickson or somebody from the law department tell us why we're going, the stated reason we're going to executive session, then I'll entertain that motion.
This is Alicia.
Go ahead, Ms. Frazier.
Alicia Frazier, Managing Deputy City Attorney. We're going into executive session to discuss items that may be subject to litigation regarding the council actions related to the legislation that Councilmember Archibald just read.
Thank you, Ms. Hines.
Yeah, I just like some clarification. Am I on?
Yes, we hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I would like a little bit of clarification on that, of what the pending or threatened litigation is, because there does need to be some certainty to that.
Well, thank you, Council Member. As you know, there's never any real certainty, but the procurement process has occurred as it relates to this this procurement, and the proposed motion by the council to modify that could lead to potential litigation that we need to discuss in executive session.
Okay, I'm going to say I'm not going to support the motion to go into executive session. I've had the opportunity to read the case law on when threatened litigation is definite enough, and I'm not comfortable in this situation.
Okay. And I do want to state just the motion on the paper as a whole is to adopt, but we do still have Mr. Hillis's amendment on the floor. So I just want to make that clear. Go ahead, Ms.
I'm sorry, Madam President. We also need to provide legal advice to the council as it relates to the actions that they're considering taking, particularly as it relates to the proposed amendment.
And Madam President, may I respond again?
Sure, please.
I don't believe that giving legal advice is grounds for going into executive session. Not all legal advice during a meeting is a cause for an exception to the Open Meetings Act.
There are some things, Councilmember as it relates to this matter that would be protected if we were in litigation under the attorney-client privilege, and it is the law department's position as it relates to the proposed amendment that those are things that would be subject to the executive session.
All right. Well, again, I'm going to vote no on that. It's the council's executive session, and it's the council's decision to go into executive session. And I don't think it's appropriate here just because there's work product or attorney-client privilege. There needs to be an exception to the Open Meetings Act, and I don't see it here.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, I don't even know where I am. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Is there a motion?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
And I second.
Okay. There's a motion by Winslow, a second by Shepard to go into executive session. Is there any other discussion? All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is now open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Boone? Ms. Boone? All votes are cast.
The vote is now closed. Populating votes. Populating votes.
And everyone is populated. 9 days, 4 days. We are now in executive session. Ms. I.
I'd just like to state for the record, I'm not going to participate in the executive session.
All right. All right. If other members who voted to go into executive session, if you will hang up from this line and call into the secured line, it should be text to you. And for the public, we will go into executive session. We will come out of executive session, and the council will vote on the item before them. So let's all exit into executive session. Thank you. coming back.
Apologize for it. I shouldn't apologize to anybody else. I'm just letting you know.
No, you're here and they're not. They're the ones in trouble.
I'm here, Madam President Winslow.
Okay, we're going to do a roll call in just a minute. I hope everybody is hung up and is dialing in. I thought you all were following me. It is almost 11 o'clock. You need to keep it moving. If anybody can just cut that line off, if they're still talking, they don't need to be. They need to be in here. Okay, let's try the roll call again, Mr. Clark.
President Felicia A. Moore.
Present.
Council members Michael Julian Bond.
Here.
Matt Westmoreland.
I am still here.
Andre Dickens.
Here.
Carla Smith.
Here.
Amir Faroki.
Here.
Antonio Brown. Cleta Winslow.
Present.
Madeline Archibald.
Here.
Jennifer Ives.
Here.
Howard Shook.
Aye.
J.P. Matsakai.
Here.
Dustin Hillis.
Here.
Andrea Boone.
Present.
Marcy Carly Overstreet.
Present.
Joyce Shepard.
Present.
Quorum present.
Thank you. I entertain a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Very second. Motion by Bond, second by Westmoreland to exit executive session. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Winslow?
Aye.
Somebody's yawning. You all need to mute your phone. Okay, Ms. Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
All votes are cast. Boone and Winslow are yes.
The vote is now closed. Populating vote.
We're waiting on one other vote to be populated. $14 yeas, 0 nays. We have exited executive session. Madam Chair, Ms. Archibald.
Yeah, so I made a motion to adopt, but I believe the amendment proposed by Councilmember Hillis, has that been dealt with, or is it still before us?
It's still before us. So we can vote it up or down, or whatever action you all choose to take. Is there, Mr. Hillis, are you ready to, you want to continue with your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Bond, how do you vote? Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
You vote what?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Boone and Mr. Bond are yes. Ms. Winslow is a no. All votes are cast.
The vote is now closed. Populating vote.
Four yeas, 10 nays. The motion failed. Mr. Hillis.
We'll make a substitute motion to send this back to committee, and I think very advisable that Mr. Clark be at that committee meeting so he can answer a whole lot of questions regarding this procurement. So I'll make that motion.
Okay.
To back to committee.
There's a motion to refer back to committee. Is there a second?
Second, Boone.
Second by Boone. Motion by Hillis to refer back to committee. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's open the vote. Let's open the vote on the motion to refer back to the City Utilities Committee.
The vote is open. Please vote.
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Winslow?
In favor.
Ms. Winslow and Mr. Bond in favor. All votes are cast.
The vote is now closed.
14 yeas, 0 nays. It is referred back to the City Utilities Committee. Mr. Hillis.
Motion to adjourn.
No, we have the next thing on our agenda are general remarks. Are there anyone that have announcements or remarks for the good of the order?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
Go ahead.
Good night. That's my remark. Okay.
Miss Winslow, you're out of order. Everybody, the public is still watching. Let's keep our decorum. We're almost out. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Madam President. On this Thursday at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're having a Bridging the Gap community cleanup at the intersection of Hank Aaron Drive Southeast and Varnenia Avenue. We've got our community partners in Bad for Family and the APLI. We're also looking for volunteers, and so that will be this Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Thursday night, the Post 1 at Large office will have a special town hall meeting considering the topic of COVID-19 and domestic violence. As was reported to the Public Safety Committee in January, domestic violence in Atlanta has risen to 48%. We will have experts from our victim witness program in our court, the Atlanta Police Department, and individuals from Fulton County Health and Human Services and other departments. That will take place at 6:30 p.m. this Thursday, March 18th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. There's a Zoom invitation, and we encourage all to come and to participate to address this epidemic within the pandemic. And with that, Madam, I will yield.
Okay, Ms. Boone.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I would like to thank Pastor Gregory Sutton of the Jackson Memorial Baptist Church and his members, and also Reverend Pastor Eric Vincent Thomas of the St. Peter Missionary Baptist Church. We hosted over 4,000 citizens at the vaccination clinics sponsored by Walgreens and Humana, and it was a great success. We also got some of the Johnson & Johnson vaccinations at the end of the day. So I would like to thank everyone that helped make those clinics a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other remarks? Hearing none, the adjourning roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Today's meeting was held in accordance with Official Code of Georgia 50-14-1 regarding open meetings. The time is 11:02, and the adjourning roll call, Council President Felicia A. Moore.
Present.
Council members Michael Julian Bond.
Present.
Matt Westmoreland.
No.
Andre Dickens. President Carla Smith.
Here.
Amir Faroki.
Here.
Antonio Brown. Cleta Winslow.
Present.
Nadlin Archibald.
Here.
Jennifer Hyde.
Here.
Howard Shook.
Aye.
J.P. Matsakite. Here. Dustin Hillis.
Here.
Andrea Boone.
Present.
Marcy Colley Overstreet.
Present.
Joyce Shepard.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, I got one. Who was the mover? Is that Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Smith.
Is the second?
Smith.
Smith and Bond. Smith seconds. Bond motions to adjourn without objection on unanimous consent. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you for the community as well for your patience and our long meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Good meeting.
You're welcome. Good night. We are adjourned.